1998 and 2000 was purely fabricated, actually prepared deliberately by the weyane for their other ulterior motives. It was not between Ethiopia and Eritrea, it was between Tigray and Eritrea. That was based on the aims of the Greater Tigray Republic, which came out as a manifesto in 1976, which actually included the territory that we know, Eritrea, and all Tigrinya-speaking people, all Tigray-speaking people, Afar and so on, Saho. So it was an annexation plan that was designed but shelved aside because of contingencies. And even before the war started, many of you may not be noticing it or may be aware of it, but the weyane had a map of Tigray made in Germany, which included big chunks of land from the Eritrean side. So this is actually the story behind the story. But they're so capable in utilizing people and making them believe anything they want to make them believe. And we have seen them lying, cheating again and again. It reminds me of an old Oromo story, it's a poem actually. It was in a different context. It went like this. Toko oli iya, toko gedi iya, weyane bari biya. Andu kalai chohal, andu katachi chohal, weyane gimba mahalu agarata family. It was about something else, but I changed it. Okay. So this is the situation we're in. So now it doesn't even make sense to me to listen to these Augustino speakers to come with economic justifications or historic justification about why Ethiopia should have access to the sea or the two countries should be united. Unity should come as an end result of a process of mutual understanding, respect, and love, and so on and so forth. And that's what we should be working on. Not somebody to come and tell me Ethiopia needs a seaport, Eritrea doesn't use it, doesn't have any. Who told you that? Who told you what plans Eritrea has for its ports? And what gave it the justification to make these kinds of claims? To me, these are not the fruits of sane minds, but these are warmongering. It's an act of war, it's agitation, incitation of people, preparing them, eventually somebody's going to use this as a political forum, and it's going to be a very important topic, and it will lead the two countries into war. That's exactly what happened in Germany, Europe. The Germans had an idea that they called Lebensraum. It meant that a state, like a living organism, it grows, expands, and it needs a place to live. And it's quite natural if it pushes, the countries around it to make room for it. It's justified to do that. That led to the invasion of Poland, all the Sudeten countries and all that, and eventually the Second World War. So believe me, my brothers and sisters, if we approach issues this way, it's too bad. It's very sad. I only see the apocalypse of the four horsemen galloping wildly in our area. War, pestilence, famine, and so on. That is not the way to handle these issues. Every time you mention these kinds of words, you're ruffling the Eritrean feather the wrong way. It's a hot-button issue. You may use it for internal political purpose, but you're playing with fire. Fire in the sense that we're all going to end up fighting each other. So let's talk about the good things that should be taking place and would lead us to that kind of whatever it is. We call it unity, whatever form it assumes, but friendly relations. The first speaker mentioned Atolda. I remember Atolda from a different context. In 1991, after the liberation of Eritrea, he was the first one to address the Eritrean community in Washington, D.C. And what he said was so memorable. He touched so many hearts, so many minds. His words were like this: my children, now we have achieved the goals for which we have fought for so long. Now it's time to forgive all those that have hurt us, all those that we consider our enemies. Let's forgive them and start a new life. That's what we need. He was actually a sort of a prophet of his time, because when he made his mind to join the Eritrean independence movement, he saw the hardship that would come to the people if unity with Ethiopia was achieved. And if anybody had any justification to be bitter about the situation, it was him. But the words of advice he gave fellow Eritreans were so inspiring. The region that we live in is actually under constant threat of war, famine, pestilence, and so on. If you just look at history, and you don't have to go to a military academy to learn this kind of military history, if you look at all the conflicts that took place in that area, starting, of course, from the colonial period, you will see that there were some foreign forces behind those conflicts. Colonization came to the area as a result of the British. They were stationed in Aden as a coaling station, supply station. They wanted, some beef, goats, and so on from the African coast, so they went to the British Somaliland area. They saw the Germans coming from Tanganyika, and so they invited the newly independent Italy to come and conquer the Somali coast and the Eritrean Red Sea coast areas. So the British were inviting this. When there was a resistance from a prominent Somali fighter, Hassan Abdullah Osman, the British, in their cynical, derogatory way, they used to call him the Mad Mullah. He fought them for 21 years, and they had to bring the aircraft, after the end of the First World War, to Africa for the first time to beat him. And then we look at emperors in Ethiopia. They're all, cousin with one power after another. No, and when Haile Selassie came to power, the way he got Eritrea was actually by befriending the United States and becoming the ally of the United States, so that the United States would use the Eritrean base at Kanyam Station in Asmara, or Radio Marina at that time. Imagine, it's Eritrean land, it's Eritrean territory facility. So he gave them that facility, and they gave him the entire country. It reminds me of an old story from Paulos Nyonyo or somebody way back in Ethiopia. የድሬዳዋ ሌቦች, I'm going to tell this in Amharic. የድሬዳዋ ሌቦች፣ የድሬዳዋ ባቡር ሌቦች በጣም የታወቁ ናቸው እና በስራቸው በጣም ስለሚተማመኑ ገና ከመስረቃቸው በፊት ኪሳቸው ውስጥ እንደገባ አድርገው ነው የሚቆጥሩት ሌላ ሰው ኪስ ውስጥ ያለውን ገንዘብ እና አንድ መንገደኛ ተኝቶ ሲያንቀላፋ አንዱ ይጠብቃል። ሌላ መጣና እባክህ ተውልኝ ይሄን ሰው የለኔ ይለዋል። ክፈለኝ ይለዋል። ገንዘብ ይሰጠውና ይለቀለታል ይሄዳል። And that's exactly how the US and the Ethiopian emperor also were dealing. They just bargained on Eritrean territory to have access to the Eritrean territory. The owners of that territory, the Eritreans, had nothing. They didn't get anything from it. So now what I want to say is, there are certain directions or paths that we should take towards lasting peace and probably some kind of harmony and whatever kind of alliance we will have in the future. Maybe it's not going to be possible in our lifetime, but let's leave our children something peaceful. And those things are now to respect each other, to understand each other, to have empathy about each other. Okay, let's think in that direction. Let's not talk about our interest. I have an interest, so I'm going to get it or you give it to me, or else that's not going to carry.